Welcome, incredible agents from across the country. Today is February 22nd, 2018, and this is Mastermind call number 165. Tremendous turnout, as always, guys. We get well over 100 of our people show up on these calls. Lately, it's been significantly over 100, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be here. We love your participation. So, again, if you would like to actively participate, hit or precipitate. It's like Tom, it's raining up there, so either one is okay. If you want to join the call, hit *6 and then hit 1, and we will unmute you one at a time. I don't have any announcements this week other than to let you all know we will be in a 1 or 2 day planning session this week. All the partners will. If you have any brilliant ideas that you would like to share with us, something you'd like for us to bring up in the planning, we do have big plans for this year as far as significant upgrades and new products. But if you have an idea that you would like us to consider, and maybe it's something we haven't talked about before, just send an email to support@alltheleads, and we will certainly discuss it. Tim, anything you want to share with the group?
Absolutely nothing at all today. I'm just glad we're all here, and let's keep rocking. I don't have any big news. Everybody's busy. I'm tickled to death to see all the great results that are coming in from the ISA program and the mailings, and everybody's just happy. So let's keep rocking.
All right, awesome. Chad, anything you want to share? I know you're about halfway through, or you're a third of the way through your, maybe it's halfway through your mastery program. Anything you want to share with the group?
Yep. So today is session 2 of February Mastery, and I have to jump at about 5 minutes till 2. So let's just get rolling.
All right, Tom. Last but not least, anything you want to share with the group?
No, I just always remind everybody, we're here to help, and if you need anything, just send us an email to support@alltheleads.com. We track all of those items and get back to you as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, and I always follow up by reminding everybody you don't need to know who you're looking for. We've got a dozen employees now and 4 of us, so just send a generic email to support@alltheleads, but just be real specific at what you need help with. We all read that, and the best person will get back to you, usually in 10, 15 minutes or less. So, having said that, we have 2 people in the queue. We got plenty of room for more brave souls. Just hit *6 and hit 1. Nothing is out of bounds. Nothing is off base. We want to hear your wins, your frustrations, your successes, places you're getting stuck, things that are working for you, too. We'd love if you would share that with the other agents. And let's go ahead and start with the first person. Phone number ending in 5414. You're up first.
Hello. My name is Jamie, and I'm in Phoenix. And we had a question come up that I'm not really sure how we should be addressing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure. Absolutely. Go ahead.
So we're trying to understand under what circumstances a trust is named inside of a probate, and whether when we see a lead come over that is a trust, whether or not we should be doing anything with it.
So the most likely scenario is an asset was acquired after the establishment of the trust and wasn't included in the trust, or someone did a poor job in encompassing all the assets when the trust was set up. So think about if somebody set up a living trust 5 years ago, had the house, the cars, the cash, the investment accounts, everything was in it. Mm-hmm. But then they thought, you know what, it would be great if we owned a racehorse, and let's buy this racehorse and really build our wealth. And they bought it in Jane Doe's name. So in that case, the trust would act like you would actually have to probate the sale of the racehorse.
Gotcha. So
now, Chad, it's possible that it could be real estate also, correct? That was added to the trust, not necessarily.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they could have bought a house for their grandchildren, and it could have, it could be that. You never know. But most likely, if it was real estate, and like that, the real estate's probably in the trust, like because an attorney would have said, it makes sense to put this in here. It's probably something simple that they didn't, it was an oversight. But the trust very likely has real estate, so it's a good time to contact them.
Okay, cool. we ran into a bunch of calls this past week that had people were like, oh, all of that's in trust. All of that's in trust. I don't know what you're talking about with a probate. And we just weren't sure what was the best way to handle the calls. And they clearly said trust in the lead. So, we just weren't sure.
So what I would do there, I mean, you want to take the opportunity to help them understand what your service is. So I would say, oh, well, in that case, I'm really glad I called. There's obviously something out there that has been overlooked by somebody. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it on public record. So you may want to look at it. And I'll just help you understand why we reach out to folks so early. We built a team that specifically handles, this situation, whether it's probate, trust, or even end-of-life planning. We have a team. We can pretty much deal with anything that you could be going through. So what's been the toughest thing for you guys so far in getting into this? And the trust conversation can be the same as probate. It's just way easier, and they get to keep more money.
Okay.
And makes sense? You're very welcome. Yeah, it's probably a good time to educate. We hope that eventually, our kids and our grandkids won't be in this business because everybody will set up trusts. Chad, everybody really should have, well, I won't say everybody, but we really encourage, if you're working with an executor, one of your services should be to put them in touch with an attorney or a financial planner so their children don't have to go through the probate process. Chad, can you think of a good criteria of who should have a trust and who shouldn't?
I mean, anybody who has assets, really probably everybody on this call should. You can pay a couple grand to set up a living trust, and you can save 4 to 7% of your overall estate, value by not going through probate. That's statistically what people spend is between 4 and 7% in cost in settling a probate. So it's usually, for most of us, fortunate, wealthy people, we can usually pay $2 grand and save a ton of money by having a living trust. I don't have one. I'm preaching to the choir here, but I don't have one. I should, and I think all my past clients should. But it's just something that's not that common in most areas. Now in California, I would say, based on at the end of life, like in senior citizens, based on the probate numbers we see, and especially Northern California, I would say probably 80% of people in that market has a trust, because we're getting, in counties with 2 million people, we get 15 to 25 leads a month. So it's really common for some of our areas, but not for most of us. Less than 5% of Americans have a trust.
All right. Thank you very much. We have 3 more people in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 4371. You're up next.
Hello, my name is Jeff. I'm calling from New York. I just want to apologize. I didn't realize this is my first call, and I didn't realize that I have to ask a question if I put my name in the queue. I was actually just on the call to get some more information about the service.
Okay, excellent. No, you don't apologize, Jeff. Welcome. Do you have any basic questions for us, or if there's something regarding the overall process, just give us a call afterwards, or send a email to support@alltheleads, and we'll get back. So you're not a subscriber yet, or you are?
No, not yet. I just spoke to one of your representatives earlier this week, and she had told me about the call.
Okay. Well, welcome, Jeff. If you do think of a question, just pipe back in. We're glad you're here. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Next up is phone number ending in 1994. You're up next.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Andre, calling from Jacksonville, Florida.
Hey, Andre. Welcome.
And my question is, I just started this quarter with all the leads, and going through my list of leads, when I click on a lead and it has a personal representative, say John Doe, under that information, of course, is their address, but also a list of phone numbers, usually about 3 or 4. I'm trying to figure out who actually am I contacting, or which person should I call? Should I call 3 of the people there? Because, my personal representative's name could be John Q. Sample, but under that, I have 3 or different phone numbers with Mary A. Sample, John M. S. Sample, and different names. So I'm trying to figure out which one of these people am I actually calling, or should I just use the attorney information and call the attorney and ask who the personal representative is.
No, so you want to reach out to John Doe, the personal representative, and typically the first number will almost always be John Doe, and oftentimes his cell phone. The way we gather and present the phone numbers to you is in order from top to bottom, the way it displays in the system. So number 1 would be on top, 2, 3, 4. 1 is the most likely to reach John Doe directly.
Okay.
But if we can't find multiple numbers for John Doe, or if we don't find a number for John Doe, we will find people associated with John Doe. So his spouse, his work number, things like that. So if you don't, call from the top down, but if you don't reach him on number 1, absolutely call number 2. And something I'll bring up here where a lot of people who are new make the mistake of calling saying, hey, is this John Doe? Instead of that, call and just simply say, hi, my name's Chad. I'm trying to reach John Doe. Have I got the right number? And it's a much smoother transition into a conversation if you're talking to his wife or his assistant or somebody like that. Don't assume that you're calling.
Okay. Yeah, because I have Mr. Clarence M. Chapman Jr. Obviously, the deceased sounds like it's his father because that's Clarence M. Chapman Sr. But my first number is for Dolores Taylor. No last name correlation. So I'm thinking maybe that's a spouse or a formal spouse or someone that's created or, familiar with Mr. Chapman himself. So that's just what kind of throws me is that in my list of phone numbers, the last names don't match.
And how are you coming up with that last name and the name of the person on that phone number?
Well, actually, I'll just go to my probate leads that are sent to me, and I just go to view my leads, and then as I'm going through, as I'm making my phone calls, I go work top from bottom as well. I'll see the personal representative's name, and then obviously the phone numbers from it. But sometimes the personal representative's name doesn't appear in the list of phone numbers. So like he just said, maybe there's someone associated with the personal representative. So now my opening entry is I'm trying to reach instead of is this. So that may work for me.
Perfect.
Okay.
And I always feel compelled to share too that phone numbers are not an exact science. I honestly believe we are better than anybody in the country, as good and probably better at getting really good, really accurate phone numbers. But one of the reasons those numbers are so valuable, they don't come from the court records. We go out and find them. So in the case that you actually had somebody named John Doe, I promise you one of those 4 numbers would probably be the wrong John Doe. Don't let that freak you out. If it's, there's probably more than one John Doe in that town. If you happen to get a person who says, I'm not associated with the estate, it's not wrong information. It's just an extra phone number that didn't apply. That's going to happen also. And that'll usually be towards the bottom of the list. That'll be your 3rd or 4th phone number. It usually won't be your first one. Make sense?
That's fine. That makes sense. So once again, with the personal representative, I'll just work from top to bottom. That my last set of leads just kind of confused me when I saw different names there. So it worked out. Okay.
Great question. And how are your calls going so far? You just getting started?
I've gotten started actually after Christmas. My first batch of leads, I've gotten some feedback. Some people are like, oh, I'm not ready to sell, or there's no property. However, it's a numbers game. I just got to keep dialing and dialing and dialing as the numbers, with the leads I get, and it'll fall through at some point. But no actual contracts or anything yet.
Okay. Well, congratulations on taking action. And remember, if they say there's no property and they're local, you're talking to somebody who probably just inherited a couple $100,000. They might still be a good customer for you. Sell their house, buy a newer one, or buy some investment property. Don't automatically dismiss.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go
ahead, sir.
I could try that as well. Obviously, let me ask you this: what would be a great way to actually transition into something like that? Well, if there's no property, are you looking for any property to buy with the proceeds or anything like that, or how could you transition into that question?
Chad,
do you want to role play it?
Sure.
Role play it with Chad.
Okay.
So one of the first things we usually address, John, is real estate, because that's where most families hold upwards of 80% of their wealth. So is there any real estate in the estate, and do you guys have a plan for it if so?
Actually, no, there's not any real estate. My mom lived with us. We sold her house years ago.
Okay, fair enough. A lot of families do that. I mean, it's good that you guys are proactive. It actually makes this a lot simpler. Well, as I said in the beginning of our call, there's a lot of things we do, and it really starts with us kind of looking at the big picture of what situation you're in and what goals you have. Just for example, one of the things we try to do with every client is show them ways that they can reinvest or preserve the wealth that they're about to inherit. So for some people, that means, we show them how to become private money lenders to loan money to our investors because they can make a 10 to 12% return right here in town. For others, they go with a more traditional route of setting up an IRA or a 401k or maybe sometimes a college savings plan. And a lot of people will actually put their current home on the market and move up to a much nicer home. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of different things that, obviously you have a lot of options. We have pretty much a member on our team that could handle any of those options, whether it's more traditional investment or, just preserving it. Is that something that would be of interest to you guys to find out ways that you could, keep more of that money and grow it?
Yeah, that sounds good. Send me a list of contacts.
Okay, and well, which of those, so I know who to connect you with. What sounds most interesting? Are you guys interested in, moving up in your current housing, or do you want to look at more traditional investment routes?
I think we'd like to look into more traditional investment routes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have a guy named Jeff call you. He's a registered investment advisor, which means that's kind of the top shelf of financial advisors. They have a fiduciary responsibility to you. So I'll have Jeff call you. He can also help you guys with estate plans. One of the things we try to make sure that, future generations never have to go through probate again. So Jeff can help you guys reinvest the inheritance that you're about to get. But more importantly, he can help you set up a long-term plan for yourself. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll call Jeff and say, hey, I just had a good conversation with a guy. I want you to reach out to him. Just keep in mind, if this ever comes back to real estate, you know who to call, right?
Right.
And you'll indirectly earn business from calls like that. Like you'll have business coming from all directions if you take the time to do that for people.
Okay. So
one thing. Go ahead.
You go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to interject that our subscribers have taught us that adopt that. Now, you just help somebody without any apparent gain to yourself. Adopt that person into your SOI, your sphere of influence, and check back with them periodically. Just, treat them like somebody that you showed a house to or you sold their house in the past. Treat them just like a past client or a sphere of influence and put them in your database. I think it's Roger Lacey, and we have agents in rural areas that only get 15, 20, 25 leads a month and consistently do several deals a month because they adopt everybody they beat through the probate process into their SOI and work them like a past client. You provide
Right. Okay.
value and service there with nothing to gain, but in the long term, that can be a really nice source of referrals for you.
Right, understandable. And thank you, Chad, for role playing. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Does that help?
Yeah, that definitely does help. I actually will put that in my tool bag and continue to use it.
Good job. Thank you for participating. Next up is a familiar name, Belinda, phone number ending in 1189. You're up next.
Okay, yeah. Hey, Chad, how are you all? Quick
Hey,
question.
great.
Okay, I have a client that she's a PR, and she's a PR of her son's condo. It's a rent-ready unit, and they are about 8 months behind in the mortgage because the person, deceased a while ago. So the property was not willed to her, but she's, managing it because she's managing the estate. Some friends want to buy that particular condo, and, they were going back and forth saying they wanted to pretty much just keep the payments going, but, I told them that more than likely that's not going to happen because the bank, I think, knows the person has deceased, so they can't just continue to make the payments as if the person is still there. So my question to you was, I had mentioned they need to go through a short sale because they have fixed the place up, but the value is not there in terms of the sales that I see there. They're about maybe $20,000 to $30,000 underwater based on what they say the person owes versus what the properties actually sell for. So my answer to them was to actually, go through the short sale process, and then, of course, the friend can put in the offer, and, if they get it that way, then that's fine. Then plus they don't have to pay as much for the unit. some of their thinking was to, again, assume, the payments, assume the loan. But my question to you is, that's not really possible, is it, to just assume the loan when somebody has passed like that and the property really has an outstanding balance like that?
Well, it's possible, but it's very risky. So what you're talking about is buying a property subject to the existing liens, or sub 2.
Yeah,
and we had this conversation last week with a gentleman from North Carolina, and I cautioned him against doing it because the payments are behind. If the payments are current, the bank is probably not looking at title, but when you are in default, the bank is probably pulling title. And if the friend were to buy it and even bring it current, and they took it subject to the existing mortgage, if the bank looks and sees a title transfer, then it can trigger the due on sale clause in the loan, and they have to pay in full, usually within about 30 days. So it's a pretty risky move. The short sale would be safer. They could probably get it at a much better price.
Yeah,
but it just, the lender's going to have to agree to the short sale, and that just depends on how that.
Yeah, I think they probably would, because the person that actually owned it, he's the only one in the title. He's passed. So I think that'll be kind of a shoe-in for hardship.
Yeah, Belinda, we've talked about it before. As you know, my wife has done a couple thousand short sales, and it's actually much easier when the person's passed away because, I'm not being facetious, but you don't need financials on a deceased person. You just need a death certificate and proof that the person you're dealing with is in fact the executor, and that's it. Right. You save it's a relatively easy short sale. You save a ton of paperwork on one like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
So I would just have to have the PR to sign the authorization, so that then I can let my negotiating company or team or whatever go ahead through the short sale process. Is that just about right?
Yep, 100%. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a quick recap in terms of the subject to. It's not really a good idea because since it's so far behind, the bank is looking at title at this point more than likely, and I think they know the person has deceased. So so if they call for the clause where they have to get the whole amount, then that means the person will be paying more than the property is worth, really, by a couple of tens of thousands of dollars, actually. So the short sale probably would be the better way. Okay. Just wanted to be sure that I had kind of thought through it a little bit, and maybe there were some other things I may have overlooked. Okay, thanks.
So one of the things you haven't said is whether the buyer is willing to pay the payoff. It sounds like if they're willing to do it sub 2, they don't care that it's underwater. So if the number doesn't change, whether it's subject to or a fresh transaction, so why don't you first try to get them qualified for a loan to just buy the house for the payoff?
Oh yeah, that's
you're not representing them, so if they overpay, it's their choice.
Yeah, and that's what I asked the PR, because it's a friend of the family, so I was like, otherwise they would have to pay more than what the property is so-called worth based on the market value. But that's up to the buyer what they think the property is worth, because they rent very, very well, and it's already done. They don't have to go in and fix it up or nothing. All they got to do is get a tenant, put it in there. So so that's an option too.
So the problem you may have to what you need to know is, do they have a down payment? Because what you may come into is an appraisal problem. But if I were you, I would set up a call where you can actually ask questions and say, be really clear in this phone call. I'm representing your friend, the seller, but I wanted to get an idea of what your what your situation is, because I think I can really help you here. So if they're willing to, if you can get an authorization to release and get the payoff amount, and that buyer is willing to pay that payoff amount, and they have cash in the case that an appraisal comes up short, or if they're already planning on putting down a big down payment, then you might be able to just do this with conventional financing as a regular sale, and it'll happen way quicker than it would as a short sale. Because it's an investment property, depending on who they're using as a lender, I would recommend that they use a community bank, somebody that's no larger than a regional bank. Typically, a community bank, if they do it with a commercial loan, it's going to be an asset-based loan. So they're going to not necessarily look at the appraisal value. They're going to look at they're going to look at it on a cash flow basis. So if it has a 1.25 debt coverage ratio, they could give a damn what it appraises for. So if the rents are really high, even though the price, if you're looking at it as a residential on a regular appraisal comparison approach, A commercial lender may look at it and go, no, that's a good deal. You know, it's got a 1.5 DCR, so let's write it. So you need to, before you go the short sale route, I would just see if they're willing to pay the payoff. I would get the payoff amount and find out if they're willing to pay that, and then probably get them to a community lender that can do a commercial loan. And their interest rate's going to be slightly higher, but it's a much easier process.
Okay, yeah, because the thing is, for example, the price of the properties, they're selling them at 105 or so, or maybe even 95, and they actually owe between 126 and 137. So that's quite a bit over what they would have to pay if we were able to get a short sale, although it would be shorter. So, but yeah, who knows? Maybe they will just be able to get it and not have to compete.
Well, and like I said, you're representing the seller, so I would use fear of loss. So yes, you might be paying a 30% premium if you look at it on a comparison basis, but let's look at this on a cash flow basis. And if we do this as a short sale, then you understand where you are opening yourself to competition. So other people can make offers, and those offers could be higher than yours, yada yada yada. If you do the direct sale to them with commercial lending, then they are the only one at the table. So use the fear of loss to create some urgency for them to make a move, because you are representing the seller.
Okay. Okie dokie, thanks.
Thanks. As always, Belinda, our all-time most successful part-time realtor. And you are holding down a full-time job, and you always show up with good questions, and you're putting deals together. So we appreciate your participation. We only have one more person in the queue, guys. We have plenty of room for more. Before I go to the next caller, again, just hit *6 and hit 1. And we've got another half hour available if you have any other questions. In the meantime, phone number ending in 7301, you're up.
Hey, this is Bob from Philadelphia with Mickey Pascarella.
Hey, Bob.
I actually was digging around. My question had to do with what your other person was talking about, like those phone numbers that appear underneath. In my case, I don't know if it was, I submitted the ticket already, but I get my lead detail, like let's say Linda Johansson, whatever, just the name, and personal representative Linda Johansson and the address and stuff. And then under it, there's 4 numbers. And it's the same 4 numbers on all 248 records that I currently got in my most recent download.
Yeah, that's not right.
Right, so that's just an error. At first, I was trying to do the same thing. Your previous caller was like, are those numbers related to this in a different way? Like, why did they say Roberts when it's... But now I realized that I started looking at my other links, and they're all the same 4 names and 4 phone numbers. So something's definitely not right. So I do have a ticket submitted, and and thank you for that role play earlier as well. That was...
oh, no, you're very welcome. And Tim's on the call. If you submitted a ticket, they're already working on it, and they'll get that corrected. It doesn't sound like a researcher error. It sounds like a some kind of
data error, database thing.
Yeah, a processes error. Somehow one of the leads got duplicated. So don't call that person 300 times. We don't want you to waste your time. Well, it doesn't happen often, but if you make us aware right away, we'll get it corrected real quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I'll dump that into like Mojo, and I'll just call these people 300 times.
Yeah, that'll.
Come back next week and let us know how that worked out for you.
Thanks again.
Great attitude. You're very welcome. Great attitude. One more person in the queue. Again, we have time for many more. Just hit *6 and hit 1. Next up, it says anonymous, no phone number, but you're up next.
Well, hi, this is Ron. I'm in Texas. I was making some phone calls yesterday for the first time. I'm new subscriber, and I came across a decedent that actually died back in September 7th of 2013, but the probate was filed the same date, but of 2017, 4 years later to the date. I called the personal representative, who happened to be the husband, and asked him if the probate had been settled and such, and he acted like he didn't know that anything had been filed. And the attorney, I like what you guys do on your list. You also provide the attorney information. I mentioned the attorney name, and he said he didn't know who that was, so he acted surprised. I guess my question is, I guess there's no how far. I kind of also like the feature that you put when the person passed away. Is 4 years too far to go back if there's been no probate shown?
No, not at all. I've gone back to 1983.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What happens is some people just aren't aware of the laws and their responsibilities when someone passes away, and they just kind of overlook it. And what sounds like probably happened here is he still doesn't understand the law and what he needs to do, but someone has filed probate for him, probably somebody from the government.
Oh, so that 4 years to the date, 9/7/13 to 9/7/17 was kind of odd. So I kind of figured maybe something was triggered after 4-year time frame.
Yeah, someone probably caught a death certificate and noticed there was never a probate and put it on the court docket. And it's strange that he hasn't been notified, but it could be because he didn't change an address or he hasn't opened mail, or you just never know. So it may be good to talk to, it's a good reason for you to reach out to the attorney and say, hey, listen, I talked to John Doe, and he really wasn't aware of this, but it was his wife. The dates do match. I just wanted to see if I could, set up a call with the three of us so we can better understand the situation and put yourself right in the middle of it.
Okay.
And like at most, I mean, commit to a half-an-hour conference call and see if there's any way you can help him. If he hasn't done anything, he may not plan to sell anything, including the real estate, but it would be a good learning exercise for you. At least the next time you see one of those, you have you could say, oh yeah, well, I actually helped the guy who went through this once before. So and it would just take a few minutes of your time.
That's a good idea. I thought of calling him back, but I like the idea of calling the attorney. Okay, thanks.
And reach out to that attorney too. Let him know that you specialize in this. So does he. And hey, after the process is over, during it, let him know the value you bring to him, and ask him for future referrals. Does he appear to be an attorney? And you can look down your leads list too and see if he is an attorney that does frequent probates in your market. And either way, I'd ask him for referrals. But certainly if he consistently has other deals in there, he's a guy you want to connect with.
Okay, good point. Good ideas. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Chad. We have no one else in the queue. Star 6 and hit 1. Lately, we've been going over an hour. There's no one in there today. It might be. Let's give everybody a few more minutes to kind of chime in. And I was going to say it might be a good time to kind of educate everybody on the best way to approach the attorneys if they're not doing that. We recommend you reach out to the executors first, but look down your attorney column, and if you see an attorney doing multiple deals, reach out and let them. Chad, you want to just touch real briefly on the best way to approach the attorney based on our 4 or 5 years worth of experience?
Yeah, so the absolute most effective way to kind of build your attorney referral network is face-to-face. What we found is the people who kind of systematically say, okay, I'm going to meet all of these people, and I'm going to do it on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock. I'm going to go visit at least 3 each week. Like, those are the people who are really successful and get a ton of business from this. So I've yet to have anyone who actually did it, like left their office and actually went to meet with attorneys. So far, not one person has ever come back and said, well, that didn't work. They come back super excited because the attorney engaged with them and like immediately started giving them referrals. And so it's uncomfortable, but you're probably the only one in your town doing it because of that. Not many people do it. So a good way to open the door without showing up asking for something is showing up giving something. And one of the things that I try to get everyone to do is take your list of past clients. And just like I said earlier in this conversation, all of us should have an estate plan. All of us should have at least offered to set up an estate plan for our past clients. So what a good way to go back through your SOI and touch everybody and say, hey, listen, I've gotten a lot of experience working with families in the last year or so, and it's important to me that I give my clients the highest level of service. And I know you bought a house 2 years ago, but this still applies. Would it be okay if I had an attorney contact you to offer to talk about a free estate plan consultation? And then take that list of past clients and go to the attorney and say, listen, I've got 12 clients. I'm looking for an attorney, a family law attorney that I can partner with just to help them set up estate plans. And we also specialize in probate. We help a lot of families, and as part of that, we do the research at the courthouse. And I kept seeing John Doe's name. I was just hoping that, I just thought we should really know each other. So I was hoping I could introduce myself and maybe get started on these 12 clients that I have. Is he around? And it's a really good way to open the door with value. And an attorney who's about to get 12 referrals is going to be very interested in meeting with you. And once you start talking about that, you can easily segue into, oh, well, listen, the way I found your information was from the probate records. We actually have built a team that helps families, and that through that whole process, yada, 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 and then just go into that conversation. And I promise you'll impress that attorney. I promise no realtor has ever had that conversation with him. I've yet to have anyone come back and say anything different. Like, the attorneys are blown away when they realize you're not just a typical realtor just chasing commissions, when you're actually focusing on servicing, like complementing their business and servicing their ideal clients. They think you're the only agent in the world. So that has been my advice over the last couple of years. But we've been testing with our ISAs calling attorneys, and that's hasn't proved to be too fruitful for our subscribers. I don't have any experience myself because in my market we don't use attorneys. But I've worked with our ISA team, and they have pretty much cracked the code. On one campaign last week with less than 100 names on the list, we were able to set 8 attorney appointments, and they were valid, good appointments. So at almost 8%, we were able to set appointments, face-to-face appointments with attorneys using our ISAs. Now, it takes us a little bit longer to make those calls, and the labor cost is higher because we can't use a dialer. We haven't put the pricing on there and offered it to you guys yet until we kind of get better statistics. We're making calls literally right now. There's campaigns running to try to get this down to a science before we offer it to you guys, so we know we're getting the most for your money. So we will hopefully be offering that in the near future. If you just aren't taking advantage of networking with attorneys, or you need help with it, we will hopefully be able to help you out.
Perfect. Great job. We have 2 more in the queue while we were talking. Next up is phone number ending in 1660. You're up next.
Hello, fellas. My name is Lucky Montoya. I am not a client at the current time. But I have been paying attention to your all's these series for, I don't know, probably 3-4 weeks.
Great.
I guess you could say I'm kind of a slow to go kind of guy. But I've learned a lot, and I just wanted to thank you guys for that. I do have a question. And by the way, just your explanation prior to this is pretty good. What is the acronym ISA?
Inside sales agent, a call center person.
Okay. I currently use an overseas call service for for all my FSBOs. So is this another service you all provide specifically towards estates?
Yep. So we use domestic callers, and we do it at $2.50 per call. Or excuse me, that's not right, per lead. So we get, as you heard on this call, we get usually 4 phone numbers for the personal representative, and we'll call each of the phone numbers and leave a voicemail if you want us to, for a flat $2.50. Okay. What's your conversion rate on FSBO and expireds? How many do you have to call to get an appointment? Do you know?
She's pretty good. She does a pretty good job. I'd say 1 in 10, which is, to me, is pretty good. And
those are.
Sometimes I'm chasing, not too sure sometimes when I get there what I'm going to get into, but to me it's more about getting out there and getting the business done. And sometimes they're good leads, and it's just like in anything. You might just end up meeting somebody, and so she's real good about getting them on my touch system. So, but it's not always a great lead. But yeah, I'd say we do 1 in 10. some weeks are 1 in 15, but you know, I'm on my FSBOs, I'm going at least 1 to 2 appointments a week. So.
And how many appointments do you convert on your first visit? Like if you go on 10 appointments, how many of those turn into listings for you?
I'd say in a month, 3.
Okay, so 30%.
Yeah.
What we're seeing right now is it takes us 48 leads to set an appointment, and 2 and 3 appointments turn into listings on the first appointment. So it's about a 3% conversion rate, which is pretty phenomenal. But that's what we've been tracking at since we started.
Okay. Well, and I kind of came in at the end of one of these conversations, I think 2 weeks ago, and you guys were talking about it. So it's just been on the top of my mind thinking about it, and so I thought I'd ask that question. I am a auctioneer, and the reason I got into the real estate business was because of the auction business. It's just at times there's not a lot of estates in my area, so I've had to concentrate on, you know, getting out and working on other things. But I like your program, and I like these calls, and I just want to thank you guys, and I'm sure I'll become a client soon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
we
well,
appreciate your
you have a great business model to be doing this. I mean, we have several auctioneers and estate sale companies, probably some on this call, but as subscribers, and they do incredibly well with this. I spoke to a gentleman this morning that has an estate sale company, and he typically relies on SEO to get all of his business. But he's now taking a proactive approach because he's got more and more competitors showing up in his market in that industry. So he's now proactively marketing, and he's doing quite well with it. So you've got you've got both real estate and estate sale. Like, you take up both of those spokes, and I'm sure you know everybody else having worked in that industry. So you're in a good position to really.
Yeah, I've been an auctioneer for 20 years, and funny, when I came in, my competitor, he had already tied up the local attorney, and I mean, it's been everything I could do to try to get in the door there, and it's just not going to happen. And locally, he gets all the estates, but I've been able to venture out to some other communities and go ahead and get some work done that way. But countywide, you guys seem to get a lot more information on the estate from the numbers they were giving me. So I'm real interested in tapping into that, seeing what it is.
Yep. Well, you have my phone number. I'll be here all day after the call. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Chet.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask a favor. I've always, since I was a kid, I've been fascinated and loved auctioneers. So can you sell me this pen? Can you auction me this pen?
Sure, I'd love to. It's $45 and $50, $50 and $55, $60 now, $65.
Sold. Thank you.
Awesome. That was great. We have one more person in the queue. It looks like this will be the last for this week, unless anybody else wants to jump in. Phone number ending in 1906. Looks like you're last up this week. How can we help you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Great.
Okay, good. My name is Jose Torres. I'm here from South Florida. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm an investor, and I'm trying to get into this probate, market. And I was listening to the gentleman about how to approach a family estate family attorneys that for probate. And me as an investor, I heard your point as a real estate agent. But me as an investor, how would I approach, a real estate attorney or a family attorney that will be willing to sit down with me and work with me? What would you suggest?
So the big key to what we teach is differentiation. So think of whether you're a realtor, an investor, an estate sale company, all the things we talked about today. Regardless, you should think of yourself as your service as the hub. So you are a probate professional. Now, your spoke that you're taking up is real estate investment, but you should also have a realtor on your team, an estate sale company, an estate planning attorney, a probate attorney. So we regardless of what our role is, if we take the same approach of, listen, we've built a team here locally that helps families in probate, then that's going to differentiate us from other realtors, other investors, estate sale companies, like we're going to sound different. We're going to have a different offer. And where most investors turn people off is they have a very direct, one-sided offer. I'll buy your house at a deep discount. You don't want to sell it? The hell with you. I'm on to the next one. And if you just slow down and take a more service-oriented approach as an investor and build that team around you, you can create additional revenue channels for yourself. Like you can have people paying you for referrals. You know, real estate agents can pay for your marketing and say, listen, for every listing I give you, I want you to pay for my SEO or my landing pages next month or whatever that is. They can give you a marketing fee. If you're sending it to estate sale companies, they can kick you cash. You know, you're not a licensee, so you can receive cash from, you know, a related industry. So it's a different approach than you're probably used to. It takes a little bit more time, but you get a much different reception from both the PR and the attorneys because you sound a lot different than anyone else who's been begging them for business.
Oh, I see. So basically, I would approach them and say, "Listen, I'm looking to team up with a probate attorney, a local probate attorney, which you know, we could basically we could help each other, you know, on probate cases. You know, I have a real estate agent that will help me also. You know, if they don't want to sell immediately, if we can refer to a you know, the real estate agent." And if there's somebody that is not ready to sell, because we also market to pre-probates, people that, you know, we know that passed away and they haven't filed for, you know, for any kind of, you know, probate. Would that be a good approach?
Yeah. So you should dial it in a little bit more. And help, like, the big thing is help the attorney understand that you're trying to lead with value and, like, what value do you bring to his business. So I would say expand on a little bit more, like, the team aspect. So, you know, we've built a team of people here locally that help families in probate. So whether you need a quick cash offer, you need to list the home conventionally, get a house cleaned out, help families set up, reinvest assets. We've built a team of professionals that we've vetted and worked with, and it's really, you know, where we find a lot of families expect the attorneys to do so much more than you have the time to do. We kind of fill that gap between your service and what the family's needs are. Think of us as the you know, we're the value that fills that gap, that bridges that gap. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then get engaged in that conversation and then ask for referrals.
And please come on the first Wednesday of every month. We do a role play call at 2:00 Eastern. You'll get a notification. Please come on that call because we rarely have investors on that call, and it's really the same program, just from a slightly different perspective. So come on the next role play call and role play with us also, or listen to the past role play calls. There have been investors that have been on those. Fair enough.
And they're Wednesdays. When are they?
Yeah, the first Wednesday of every month at 2:00 Eastern. You'll always get a reminder ahead of time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I haven't signed up for you guys' service because basically the county where I live in South Florida it's taken, but there's other counties around it that are very profitable and I could reach out to you. So I'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. If you take an adjoining county, we'll put you on the wait list for the one, you know, where that it's taken, and a spot will open up. They always do. Agents come and go. Unfortunately, people get out of the business, or they mean well, they buy the leads and they don't follow through. So get on our wait list for that county and take an adjoining one in the meantime. We appreciate it, Jose. In the meantime, we got two more people. Thank you, sir. Two more people in the queue. You're very welcome. Thanks for participating. Next up is phone number ending in 8380. You're up next.
Hi, it's Derek. I wanted to see if Chad could walk through or describe again those ISA numbers. So like how many calls it takes to get an appointment.
Sure.
Then usually how many of those turn into, I guess, listings, as long as you understand how to convert. And also too,
so
what
the average
handoff. What is the handoff process like? I guess is. If I don't know if the ISA is calling us live or they're emailing us to the appointment, or how does that work?
Yep. So on average, across all markets that we're calling in, it takes us about 48 leads the average is 48 leads, and that's calling all 4 numbers. But 1 in 48 will turn into a phone appointment, and 2 in 3 of those phone appointments turn into listings. So that translates to just right around 3% conversion on a cold list. So if we start with 100, there's probably 3 listings sitting in there for you. The way you know you get an appointment is you'll get an email immediately from the ISA. If it's a same-day appointment, you'll get an email followed by a text message, so we know, and probably a phone call, so we know that you're getting it that day. Then what we've learned is not to try to set face-to-face appointments using an ISA. What we're setting is a phone call. So we're basically just prospecting to find the ready, the ones who are ready now to speak with somebody. And then it's your job to kind of pick up from there and jump into the conversation and turn it into an actual face-to-face appointment. But the numbers show that people aren't having any trouble doing that because 2 and 3 are listing.
Okay, got it. And you said that what is the cost again? You said it's like $2 a call or something like that?
It's $2.50 per lead. So think about it just like if you're going to order mail. It's $1.50 to send somebody a letter. It's $2.50 to call all of their phone numbers. And if you put it on autopilot, if you're on autopilot, the second your leads come into the CRM, that will trigger your mail order, and that will be coordinated and also trigger your call order. So if you're consistently using the same sequence of letter, phone call each month, then you don't even have to you don't even have to log in. When your leads come in, we'll completely automate your campaign. And as the ISAs are calling, if they find ones that have already sold or don't have real estate or it's already listed, they're going to be opting those out. So on the subsequent rounds, you're actually going to save money. You're only paying for, we're only calling and mailing the ones who we haven't spoke to that, that we still need to. So, theoretically, your costs will decrease over your campaign from one month to the next. We're decreasing your cost, and that was the whole goal here, was to most importantly automate out the choke points that we see people fail on, which is not getting their mail out, not making their phone calls, or just getting into analysis paralysis because they're not used to the systematic, execution of something like this. But secondly was to make it cheaper for you. So even if you're doing the mail by yourself and making calls by yourself, we can save you money over a 90-day period. It's cheaper to use our full-blown automated system than it is to approach it on your own. So that's the idea.
Okay, and then did I hear that you said that you're going to be able to, make sure that the attorneys got called too, and was there a different cost or was it the same again?
It will be a different cost because with the attorneys, we're finding that it takes a significantly more time because we have to usually go through a call tree, hit a gatekeeper, and then finally speak with the attorney. Where with personal representatives, they're direct phone lines, so we can call 4 at a time and grab the one that picks up first. So we can use a dialer to kind of expedite that. And we lose that ability with the attorney. So we're most importantly tracking results to make sure we've got this down to a science. And then we've got to look at what's the least amount we can get that done for. So we should have that ready in the next week or two.
All right. And how long does it take to set up the ISA model for my account?
Probably 30 or 40 seconds.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I need to run some numbers here, but I probably need to give you guys a call back afterward. All right.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Jim,
we do have
Jim, I have to jump. I've got to go set up.
Yep.
I have to jump. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to go do session 2 of Mastery. Have a good week.
We have one. Go get him, Chad. We have one more person in the queue. If it's a Chad question, we may have to ask you to call back next week. But let's see. Larry, you're up last this week. Phone number ending in 0907. How can we help you?
Hey, it's Larry. How are you?
Great, Larry. How about you?
Good. I saw Chad's Mastery was starting yesterday. If I wanted to jump on this session, is yesterday's phone call recorded to where I can go back and listen to that, or any of his previous Mastermind sessions?
They're not only all recorded, but you can, once you make it through the Mastery program, you can rejoin it every month if you want to, as many times as you like. There's no additional charge because it's always getting better and it's always being improved. Now, it might be a little. You have not signed up for it yet, correct?
Not yet. I'm in the car now, and I just was wondering.
So it'd be.
My own fault.
It'd be too late to sign up for today's session, but if you want to get started, just send an email to support at all the leads, and you can go ahead and sign up, and you could do the third session tomorrow live, because there are different topics on every session. I don't think it would be bad to start on the third, and then he'll send you the recordings of the first two, and then you could do the whole program in sequence next month if you prefer.
Okay. But the whole program it covers the same meat every month. Correct?
The same topics. I think the meat gets juicier every month because he more experience, more scenarios, more things that he's come in contact with. We do have people. I wouldn't say you need to take it every month, but you may want to go back every 6 months or so and do a refresher course because the course constantly gets better.
Okay, and that's a one-time $250, right?
Yes, sir. Correct.
All right. Email support at alltheleads.com for that?
Yeah, supportalltheleads.com. Just say, I want to go ahead and get started with Mastery, and Chad will get back to you with the link and get you signed up.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
All right. Great call, guys. I'm going to go before somebody asks a question that I can't answer since Chad's not here. Guys, I always like to end these calls by thanking everyone for being here today. We appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to be with us. It was a very good call. Great participation as always. I want to challenge all of you, as I always do. There were some really good ideas, really thoughts, really interesting things that people shared. Take one idea, one thing you heard that inspired you, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share it with the group. Make it a great week, guys. We will talk to you same time next Thursday.